added there. Anyways, so what I have going on is I was looking through an old phone the other day and I'm like, gosh, I got videos on here that I didn't know I had. And I was like, oh my God, you're not going to believe what I got. I found a video on there of Governor Waltz right after January 6th. It was January 11th. And after I got back, I think it was after I got back. Maybe it was before I left. Might have no, it was right before we left before I left for DC. And I just looked over here and noticed that I look kind of funny on my thing. But anyways, I don't care. Um hold on. Um and so I on there we had just I did a lot of protesting at the time, and so I was going to show you, I found videos of it, so I'm going to show you what happened, what I was doing right before January 6th, went out to DC, and then came back to this governor, and you just gotta see it, okay? I see, you gotta see it. Anyways, well, hi Daniel Barry Sports. Hi Steph, how are you? What? What do you mean I'm muted? Shut up, girl. Shut up. I am not muted. You say that every time. I'm not muted. There's no way I'm muted right now. No way. Oh, porn? What? No. Porn? What? Wait, what? Crystal lady, hi. Hi. Yeah, I went to Trump rally last week in Long Island. Oh, did you enjoy it? Yes. Oh, cool. You can't hear me? Maybe turn up your sound, hun. Every because it can I Viper, can you hear me? Viper, can you hear me? Unless if he like no, okay, so I obviously yours is the only one that doesn't have sound. Because somebody else would have said something by now, right? Right. Okay. Anyways, okay, turn up your volume. Unmute me. You probably muted me the other day. Probably muted YouTube me. But anyways, so I got these videos. So we're gonna kind of go. I did invite Hate Your State, but I know that he had a tummy ache. I don't know if he's coming. I don't know. I sent him a link, but I can't. He might be busy. Who knows? I kind of took a long time getting this up, but I was going through a bunch of stuff on my computer. Okay. Anyways, okay. So let's get to it. I mean, let's just get to it because it's just I thought it was really cool that I found these. And so we'll just kind of go through some of it, and who knows how long it'll take. I don't know, but I found something really interesting. When I found the video of Tim Waltz after J6 and giving a speech to Congress, to the Minnesota Congress, the state Congress, um, or the Senate, and they freaking renamed the video. So what I have screen record, I mean, I was taking a video of my television from what was I was seeing on television or on my screen or whatever, and it was on a YouTube video, but then they changed the name of the YouTube video. And I was like, it's because you can't find it. Well, you can still plug in the old name, and it came up with the new video, which I found really weird. But I was like, okay, well, maybe it's just the part where I had the maybe I just had it wrong, maybe, but in my opinion, you can see it all. So let's check it out, you guys. You're not gonna believe. You know what? Let's just show you what I was doing before the J6 incident, okay? And then what I came back to with Waltz, because you'll find it very interesting. Let me find. Here you go. No, we want this one. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Present, because I can't play it through my OBS, so I have to pull it up this way. I'm going to do entire screen. That way I can share the audio system with you. Share. Okay. And, oh, add it to the stage, maybe. Hello. Actually, let's do this. Here we go. Tell me if it's not loud enough, too loud, whatever. Okay. I'm like going, why is that there? Okay.
Make sure that you're in prayer that day, praying for the leaders and praying for our president. So today, I'm going to make a little announcement. Today, what we're going to do here when we leave is we want to make a difference. I mean, we're gathered here today to encourage each other, okay, to share information, but we also want to make a difference too. And we're not being heard. Our voices aren't being heard. When we gather together like this and we do things together, we're able to be heard.
So at the time, they wanted us, Tyrant Timmy, the dictator, wanted us to separate. They didn't want people going to work unless you were essential work. Just a lot of this stuff. And this was long after. Oh, this was in January, the following January, 2021. So I'm just saying it was weird.
When we leave here, we're going to have a shorter rally today, and we're going to leave here, and we're going to take this movement, and we're going to go visit some representatives that are close by. What do you think about that?
Love it. Would I do that?
We want to go tell them enough is enough.
Yeah.
We don't live under a dictator. Quit giving the dictator his power.
Right.
We voted you in the office. We want you to take back your responsibility that we elected you to do. If there's laws that need to be passed, it needs to be done through Congress, not through a dictator. So we're going to go to their house. 2 of us are going to go up there and knock on the door. The rest of us are going to stand in the street, in the driveway. We're going to be there. We're going to not use any profanity. We're going to be there respectfully.
Right. That's right.
But we're going to let them know that it's not right what they're doing.
Right.
What they're doing to us is not right.
Right.
And they need to stop it. They know it's not right.
They were telling people they couldn't. They couldn't.
Today's the day it starts.
We're
going to start one by one. We're going to make them uncomfortable.
They couldn't keep their little restaurants open. They weren't letting small businesses open up.
Do this today with us. Right? Who's going to be able to go up there today? It's not too far. Somebody else is going to come up and tell you a little bit more about it. But I think we're going to have somebody.
Okay.
Who else has got supposed to speak or wants to speak? Come up now. We got a few minutes here.
So there was that video. But wait, there's more. There's more. Let me find the. Oh shoot! Hopefully what did I just do? There you go. There we go.
And I'm glad we stay up next to you and defend her still today. Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless.
This is a few moments later. We're out at their house. Freedom! We were screaming, we were obnoxious. So again, this was shortly before, this is the weekend before January 6th, 2021.
It's time we say, come on, let's hear ya.
We all start singing. Don't laugh. If I start singing, don't laugh, okay?
At least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the man who died, who gave that
I love this song. I can't help it. It is what it is.
Next to you when you
I-
till today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land.
I know, right?
God bless the USA.
They're just getting into it, and this is outside of a congressperson. Or this might be a representative's.
I know I'm
I think it's a representative's house. I mean, it went on. But we're very respectful. So there was no shame in this. We would literally go inside there for like 15 minutes and then leave. We'd get in, and before the cops would arrive, we'd leave.
Let us work. Let us work.
Let us work.
I still had to work, but I was with them. They couldn't open their businesses.
Let us work. Let us work. Let us work.
Let us work. Let us work. Let us work. Let us work.
So a couple of ladies went up there to not be intimidating. A couple of little ladies went up there.
Rachel, we are at
I don't know what I said. I haven't watched this whole video, so I hope I don't say anything bad. Don't judge me. I don't. Nobody answered. I don't believe.
We're going up to give a list of our demands. Open this state. Let our kids go back to school.
Yeah.
Our restaurants.
Audit the vote.
Enough of the emergency powers.
Yeah.
Congress, do your job.
Yeah. Do your job.
Your job.
Do your job. Do your job. Do your job. Do your job. Do your job.
Do your job. Do your job. Do your job. Do your job.
That's how it's
Do
done,
your
folks.
job. Do your job. Do your
So
job.
get
Do
this.
your job. Do your
I actually
job.
have video of a few other of the places that we went. Or we actually only went to one other place that day. So after that, this came up with Governor Walz when they started. So here we go. I don't know if
I just want to make note of this. The
If you
death
can
of
hear
a
it.
Capitol Police officer, many of whom are still my friends, the undermining of the sense of security in our nation. We have members here in Minnesota who are afraid to come to work because they were afraid of the threats that they're
So
receiving or at their homes. We have members marching on their homes. And we have work to do around education, around the environment,
You hear
around the
him?
budget.
We've got what? Marching. What? This is a few days later.
Security in our nation. We have members here in Minnesota who are afraid to come to work because they were afraid of the threats that they're receiving or at their homes. We have members marching on their homes. And we have work to do around
Okay, so did what you seen, was that threatening? Intimidating, yes. Threatening? Do we threaten to harm anyone? No. We're telling them to do their damn job, is what it was. It was crazy. So this is Tim Walz a few days later after we had done that. Okay.
education, around the environment, around the budget. But I did not expect this conversation to veer into a condemnation of a House candidate that was roundly criticized, or an idea that we're going to pretend that what happened in any way
Yes,
is
Steph, it was
equivalent
in Minnesota.
that happened last Wednesday, and what our responsibility is, because I believed it. I believed that this was going to be the state where we came together and tackled these issues. I believed it, that we could find this common ground. I did not stand here in self-righteousness and say that there has not
Here's
been
a list
folks
of our
on all political
demands.
spectrums to do
We were
this,
just demanding
but
as
that is a false
protesters
equivalency to end the conversation
to
we're
do
having
their
right now.
job.
Before the end of this week, this president will be impeached or will be removed. I am going to get on a call here very shortly with Vice President Pence, whose life was threatened in the chambers of the United States.
So all of a
Capitol.
sudden, Pence is on the Dem side there, hey?
The sense of shame, of disbelief, of horror that was witnessed by our people. Now all of a sudden we're going to say, well, both sides do this, but you know, these people are angry because this election was rigged. Election was not rigged. The election was carried out. I've lived through elections where my side lost, and I did not do this. And I, for 4 years, respectfully spoke to President Trump as the president of the United States. And we have a situation now where I can't get folks to even acknowledge that. And
Acknowledge what?
for the press
That you
department, I'm gonna
talked to
send my
Trump
team to
for
go and
4
see the story
years?
that's not being told.
I'm sorry, acknowledge what? I just, what? What the fuck did he just say? Oh, word salad like Kamala's word salads. Wait, what? Did you see the chicken head and Oprah interview? You know, I didn't, but well, I don't want to say I didn't, but I seen some clip, but I didn't watch it. I didn't watch the playthrough, so we can take a look at that later. Let's finish this because I want to show you
Saying
something.
anything? Capitol Press Gallery. If you saw some of the live footage of some of the reporters that went through this, to pretend like there hasn't been a rhetoric of the evil mainstream press, I would hope that the fact checks on Twitter and the things are being done by this group.
Let's fact check that whole everybody was afraid. I will have to definitely take a look. But okay, so what do I have?
Seeing this?
That looks like a violent crowd there, buckaroo. Was also January 6th, right outside of the gates of the Ellipse at about 5:30 in the morning. That's where that video comes from. So yeah, they were all, yeah, those were war drums. Shall I go on? I mean, I think I even have what is this? Oh no, that's a different one. Yeah. That looked violent to me. Not. Okay, let's do this manufactured freaking
To not just play
drama here.
the sports reporter that one side said this or one side said that, because now is the moment. Now is the moment. It is not over. We have 9 days and it will not be over after that.
You know what? Can I tell you something? It's so funny because a long time before that, I literally had a vision and I wrote it down on a piece of paper. Let me see if I can find it here. He says it's not over. God bless it. I deleted it. Crap. Let's see. I'll see if I can find it later. It's pretty cool. Sorry. I know. That was January 6th. Did those people look like they were freaking with pitchforks and torches and things like that? I mean, come on. He act as if everybody. I mean, you see the age of some of those people? They're like in their freaking 70s, 80s. I'm not kidding you. There's a lot of people in their 70s, there, 60s and 70s. Oh my God. It was crazy. And people in their 50s and 40s. Anyways, there was a lot of people. Okay. Anyways, okay, so let's continue with this guy. So
If we can't agree on some basic facts, if we can't agree to come back together and figure out how to piece that, I don't know. I thought this was going to be a healing moment. It's why I look forward to coming on here. I have continued to try and find where that common ground is, but I'm candidly with you. How do we talk about reaching a compromise on a budget when we can't agree that our elections are fair? Apparently they were fair in each of the members who are on here's district.
quick backpedal.
Apparently they were fair in other areas,
Whatever, dude.
but they mysteriously are not fair here. And we're not talking about other states. We're talking about people questioning the elections in the state of Minnesota and undermining this. I don't know how hard it is to unequivocally say.
I'm going to try to look at the
election
name
is
on
over,
this video.
and
It's
here's
a
where we go.
YouTube video.
Any type of assault on our democracy. So I will let the rest of the questions go.
Governor, we have at least two direct questions for you before you might need to leave.
Sure.
The first, Brian Baxt, wondering if you can talk a little bit more about the letter you sent to leaders last week regarding the potential rollback of executive authority. And then another coming from Mary LaHammer after that, if you're able to stay on, and we'd like the leaders onto some of those things too, if they're
Sure. This is another place where the administration in DC has made it politically impossible to. This is a moratorium on eviction moratorium. This is a relaxing of some of our state licensing standards. This is a masking mandate. And I would remind folks again, that is something that's put out by the CDC and it's put out by the medical institutions. And I think sending that out there, I want the legislature to take these responsibilities.
What?
I want the legislature to do some of these things. But as
Why?
I said before, I have a responsibility to
Here we go.
not
Hold on.
allow-
Pause. Hold on. Governor Walz's Capitol rioters were intent on killing Pence at Trump's urging. Okay, hold on. Let's write this down. Let's write that title down. That's what this was originally posted. It says Gov Waltz : Capitol rioters on killing Pence at Trump's urging. Wait, did he say that part yet? Is that what he said? Because I know he said that he was about to get on a phone call with Pence.
behaviors like members gathering in unmasked closed spaces to spread the virus
Oh,
go.
my
So I
God.
thought that would be a good overture, a good start. Let the people of Minnesota understand that you saw the story that was done today. Every governor is dealing with this exact same thing. As of this morning, the state of Minnesota bars and restaurants are more open than the state of North Dakota. And so I just want there to be some clarification around that. So that was the purpose of sending the letter.
perhaps the lead to respond. Governor, if you could give us a sense, how much time do you have?
I gotta go watch.
You know what? I guess it'll depend on where we go from here. I think there has to be this question that I thought was closer.
It was because he wants to decide whether or not he wants to answer the fucking question. That's what his problem is. He's not sure he wants to answer the question. Well, that decides whether or not he's got to go.
Being solved about uniting around condemnation.
Let him ask his own fucking questions now.
Coup attempt against our government, and then some desires of where we should go.
Fucking
Talking about
You
security
gotta be
members.
fucking kidding me.
So you can hear me commenting when I'm obviously when I'm watching it for the first time and recording it. I don't remember this, so it's kind of fun to watch and listen to my reaction.
Some of those things, I'll take another question from you. Then I think we probably need to rethink how we're going to come back together. I am hugely disappointed, to say the least.
Yeah, me too, bud.
I have a few questions for you if you're willing to take them, and then we'll turn to leaders for response on some of these. The first comes from Mary, and then we're going to have Trey.
Okay, if I can jump in, Governor, before you go, because I think this is under your purview, the security of the state capitol and the January 6th rally at the state capitol and protests there. And it's been noted, yes, they were peaceful. A number of people are open carrying and, long guns out along with state troopers, and it seems to be a good presence. What about that balance of folks who can come to the Capitol Mall, open carrying as well, and that balance of state security? And do we feel like our state capitol truly is safe, and what happened in DC could not happen here?
Well, my direct responsibility, because we don't have a police force, if you will, we have the state patrol, and my two areas of responsibility are the state capitol,
they're going to go and kill
the
some
residents,
innocent civilian,
and the state
better not happen here.
Our ability on the Capitol complex, and the answer is yes. We put things in place. We were aggressive around that back in May, and so I certainly think here.
I actually have a video.
I want to say that talking to members of the legislature, they may feel safe here. They don't feel safe at home. This idea of taking that, and I want to be clear, I get it, and I'm not going to get into a debate here on this, but let's just understand what open carry is about. All of us have had this. Maybe your neighbor's trees are over on your yard. So you go over and knock on the door and say, Gary, you think you could trim your trees down? I'm having this issue. Your black walnut things are in my yard or whatever. We've all done these things. It's a lot different. I go to Gary's house carrying a rifle and telling his trees are in there. And we all know why they open carry for that. It's about intimidation, whether you can or not. Heck, you can carry a chainsaw, but I wouldn't take one into McDonald's. Those are things that I think has to have a conversation about, but no one's going to say that. I got members standing in front of my house, members of the legislature, standing in front of my house next to people carrying ARs because they don't like to wear a mask.
They carry them
because they can.
Because they can. That's right. Just like some people buy a Corvette and drive it around in the wintertime because they can. It's their right. They can do whatever the fuck they want. You understand? The fuck.
So I
guess you guys know how I felt about it then. It's probably about the same way I feel about it now.
Next question from Trey.
Thank you. Governor, House and Senate leaders, several senators last week took part in floor sessions without wearing masks, and there have been reporting of there's been reporting on other lawmakers who, have questioned mask mandates and some of the COVID requirements currently in place. Is there going to be another discussion over how these requirements are enforced? Is there any discussion over what responsibility lawmakers have in modeling the regulations that are currently going on in the state? I was hoping for a little bit of perspective on where you all are at with the COVID regulations and what needs to stay and what needs to go.
Part of what makes it difficult for us to move on and have this conversation about sharing power with the governor to make decisions related to COVID-19 is this fundamental.
I'm gonna write this one down. Sorry, I wanted to write that down to see if that's still on there like that.
Difference of approach that you see in the House and the Senate, and how important it is for us to follow the basic science of stopping transmission of this disease and protecting people on the staff and members. In the Minnesota House of Representatives, we have a very strict rule. You must have a mask in all places at all times. If you're an employee, you'll be subject to discipline up to and including termination if you don't comply with the policy.
That's not
Members
right.
will not be recognized on the floor if they're not wearing a mask. If they persist in not wearing a mask, they will be subject to ethics complaints and processing through the ethics committee up to and including censure and expulsion. But you see the very
This is
major
what they
difference
did
we
in
have
Minnesota.
in approaches to dealing with COVID-19.
They just
between
are
the House
returning
and the
back
Senate. And
to
the biggest question I get is,
work
why do we
in
keep
the
upholding the
buildings
governor's
this year.
peacetime emergency power? And the reason is this is a governor who
I don't even know if
believes in
there some of them
science
are.
and who is taking measures to protect the lives of Minnesotans.
He's
as
not
we
a
are in the Minnesota
fucking
House of
doctor.
Representatives. Now,
Okay,
I
he's not a
hope
doctor.
that this session, we will be able to get to a point
Good
where
Lord.
we're all working together to manage COVID-19 responsibly. But when
No,
you see
you're
that
not.
difference on something so basic and
Okay,
so
first of all,
What do I say?
most businesses are required by the state to have cleaning or have safety and sanitation rules and
Yeah,
laws
and
for
protocols.
every establishment. And in fact, I'm almost going to guarantee that any disinfectants that are required to be used should have been able to kill the coronavirus in their establishments already, like freaking Lysol and shit like that, right?
Yeah, pretty much, yes.
So if those safety measures were already in place, what good are they doing by changing anything more? They weren't. Are you telling me that these businesses weren't cleaning with their recommended or their required disinfectants at the levels, the disinfectants being at the levels that are required by the law? I mean, seriously,
Were they
let's
not
talk about this.
doing it?
Fucking A, people. All of a sudden now you got to adopt new rules just for the coronavirus? No, why don't you look into that shit, okay? Because if our licensing agencies and our, don't, when those inspectors come out and they're not inspecting our sanitation at that time, I'm sure that they already were. There should not have to be something extra special other than maybe using more disposable things at this time. I mean, shit. Come on, man.
fundamental about protecting.
You know what?
human
I
beings'
could let my
lives
old
as these
self
different
do this
approaches on
stream.
masking policy.
Quite
It's
honestly, I
there
just
to
let my old
explain to
self
you
do this
the
stream.
difficulty that we'll have in governing the state together with regard to COVID-19.
That's
So we
hilarious.
believe in using the science
Why
and data
I
as
didn't
well. We
vote
just
for
feel
this
like there are
guy,
times
Hate Your
that the governor
State.
has used,
What are you,
has
nuts?
misinterpreted it and gone in a
You are
direction that was not
crazy if you think I
helpful.
voted for
And
this
then
guy. Why don't you come up and
secondarily,
hang out with
in
me,
the
Hate Your
Senate,
State?
we strongly encourage people to use
Come
the
on, I
mask,
know
which
you're
most
there in
people
Rumble.
do. We practice social distancing. We
Come
wash our hands,
on.
cover our cough. If you're sick, you stay at home. And we give
You
people
can sit
the
here and
ability
watch.
to
Yeah,
be
I'm
there or not
recording
be
though.
there through Zoom. And so we have not, that I'm aware of, had one infection as a result of how we handle the procedures.
They're all dirty then. Somebody's dirty and they're out there to try to kill ya because they got the COVID. They weren't wearing a mask.
Because it's this
What the fuck?
mandating the things, mandating the masks, shutting down businesses, keeping kids out of school. We just don't think that has been the right.
I'm
right
funny.
approach.
I agree.
There are so many things right now that we have to figure out how to lower the tone. I mean,
My phone.
the jabbing and then say, well, let's work together doesn't work real well. I can acknowledge both sides may have something that works, and we can, if we're working together, we can actually come to some really good conclusions. But the difference between strongly recommending people wear a mask and mandating the mask, frankly, most people are wearing the masks. And if you look in other states that have been less restrictive than Minnesota,
the mortality rates have been lower in places like Colorado and Wisconsin.
Whatever.
It's there you go.
Well, that's
We're gonna follow the
Colorado because
science
everybody's
as well.
passing around a joint.
Hard times have
Yeah.
been
There was
come
less
back
mortality
from
rates.
Oh, oops,
in the very
never
beginning
mind.
when the governor made a choice
I cut
to
that
shelter
piece
at
out.
home everybody.
I didn't cut it out. Anyway. No, anyways, okay. So what's next here? Okay, let's see what other ones. So that's kind of what I had for that part of it. But what I wanted to do was when I looked up that on the internet, that is not what I found. Let's see. I looked up on YouTube Governor Walz. Let me pull it up here. Let's do this. I can do it like this. What does it say? Gov.Walz. Oops. Okay. Here it is. Here we go.
Perspective of how do they do it? How does it look as a mandate to them of what they're already doing? Because I think one of the things to keep in mind is we have been teaching this. There is a pretty robust curriculum around the social sciences. But I do think it opens up the question that a broadening of our social science curriculum, and certainly here in Minnesota to include Indigenous history, some of the issues around racial history might be a part of that too. So I think it'll be a conversation that will probably, I don't want to speak for the legislature. I think they will probably talk about it, but I think if there is something that comes out of that, it will probably be more inclusive around the standards.
I suppose, Senator Gazelka, it's controversial as to what this curriculum would include, I suppose.
Well, let me just say the first answer is yes, I think we should. If we don't know our past, the good, the bad, and the ugly, we don't know where we're going. But, you know, the Constitution, Declaration of Independence, Bill of Rights, Federalist Papers. I mean, there's so many things that were at the foundation of who we are and how processes work. And I think that.
Well, that's a whole stream for another day. Look, I don't want to get into that one. But what I do want to do is finish with, let's see. So this, I got all kinds of fun little memes. I'm trying to move this. There you go. There we go. That one. The seeds of the American Revolution were planted by those meeting in taverns, restaurants, and churches. Now, do you understand why they want to force closures, keep you isolated, and censor you? Remember when that meme came out? And it's so true. Now, and then I came across this video. Check this one out.
My father told me when I was a child, people in authority lie. And we all, if we are going to continue to live in a democracy, we need to understand that people in authority lie. People in authority will abuse every power that we relinquish to them. And right now, we are giving them the power to micromanage every bit of our lives 24 hours a day. They're going to know where we are. They're going to know the money that we spend. They're going to have access to our children. They're going to have the right to compel unwanted medical interventions on us. The Nazis did that in the camps in World War II. They tested vaccines on gypsies and Jews.
Yep.
And the world was so horrified after the war, we signed the Nuremberg Charter. And we all pledge when we do that, we would never again impose unwanted medical interventions on human beings
right
without informed consent.
Remember when that was a
and yet
thing?
In 2 years, all of that conviction has suddenly disappeared. And people are walking around in masks where the science has not been explained to them.
Right.
They are doing what they're told. They are these government agencies are
Even he
orchestrating
knew
obedience. It is not democratic. It's not the product of democracy. It's the product of a pharmaceutical-driven biosecurity agenda that will enslave the entire human race and plunge us into a dystopian nightmare where the apocalyptical forces of ignorance and greed will be running our lives and ruining our children and destroying all the dreams and dignity that we hope to give to our children.
Yep. Sorry. Just going to grab a soda. Sorry. So I thought that was really interesting that he did that. Then I found this. Remember?
I thought they collected them all. I just want to document. How much? Wait, but how come they already called the state?
Because these are mail-in ballots.
Are there a ton in there?
Yeah.
That looks
are
legit.
You collecting from a lot of places? Yep.
Yep, that looks legit.
All right, I'll just document. Thank you guys.
That looks
Are
legit.
you guys official election guys?
Is your taxes too?
I love Water's World.
First thing I do is going to repeal this Trump tax cut. Oh, not a joke. So you're going to make less money under Joe Biden. Your paychecks will be smaller. He'll raise taxes on everybody, basically, in America, rich, poor, middle class.
Sorry, this wasn't louder, but
taxes going up. Have money in the stock market, taxes going up on investments too. Biden will soak you till you're broke. It's no joke. He'll destroy the recovery with taxes and regulations, just like Obama did. Biden won't lift a finger to stop illegal immigration. He doesn't like Trump's border wall. He's okay with asylum seekers gaming our system. He backs sanctuary cities, plus driver's licenses for illegal aliens. And Joe's healthcare plan even covers illegals.
Raise your hand if your government plan would provide coverage for undocumented immigrants.
oh, look, Kamala's hand is raised. Wait, hold on, stop. Let's go back.
Because Joe's where he put his little hand up. Yeah, Joe had to wait and look around.
There she is, right there. Kamala's hand gets raised. Watch.
See how Joe had to wait and look around first before he put his.
Her hand is right up there.
See how Joe had to wait and look around first.
Raise your hand if your government plan would provide coverage for undocumented immigrants.
See how.
That was the I'm sorry. I was like had that up here. That is so funny.
Joe had to wait and look around first before he put his little hand up. That's terrible. It's because Joe's just going with the flow.
I think we gotta clip that. And oh my god, that's a gem. I didn't even notice that one before. So let's see. Okay, so let me look at this other one. Oh, here's one. You're gonna love this one. Wait, try this one.
Come in to handle the crime. There's a lot of things we've learned, and it takes time. But we can do this. You can ban chokeholds. But beyond that, you have to teach people how to de-escalate circumstances. De-escalate. So instead of
How do you suppose we de-escalate, Joe? Let's talk about it. What are your ideas of de-escalation, Joe?
If anybody coming at you, and the first thing you do is shoot to kill, you shoot them in the leg. There's ways you have to do more background
Wait,
checks
what?
in terms. So instead of anybody coming at you, and the first thing you do is shoot to kill, you shoot them in the leg. There's ways you have to
what?
do more back circumstances. De-escalate. So instead of anybody coming at you, and the first thing you do is shoot to kill, you shoot them in the leg. There's ways you have to do more background checks in terms of whether or not the person coming in passes certain psychological test. And the last thing I'll say, and I'm sorry because it was really, I think, really important, is you have to be in a position where you are able to identify the things that have to change. And one of the things that has to change is so many cops get called into circumstances where somebody is mentally off, like what happened not long ago with that guy with the knife. That's why we have to provide within police departments psychologists and social workers to go out with the cops on those calls, some of those 911 calls.
Social workers going out on those calls. Wait, what did he say again? Play again.
De-escalate circumstances. De-escalate. So instead of anybody coming at you, and the first thing you do is shoot to kill, you shoot them in the leg.
Okay, so instead of, if there's somebody coming at you, instead of shooting to kill, you shoot them in the leg. There's so many things that I want to say, but I'm not going to say them. I can't. I can't with that guy. That's what you, and they voted for this guy. Here's one. Here's another one. This is Political Monday.
Completely lost her marbles. I think she's living in banana land. Earlier this week, she called herself the boss for coming
These are
up with the
old
Green New
videos,
Deal.
guys.
How are
We're
you
just
the boss
reliving
for
good
coming up with a plan that doesn't work? Like, are you sure that the Green New Deal's not like what you're putting in your pipe and smoking every day? I don't understand. I can come up with plenty of plans that don't work. How about we fly around on unicorns instead of airplanes? How about instead of gasoline, we use fairy dust we get from Tinkerbell? How about we get Harry Potter to come over and wizard away all the emissions from the cow farts she's so concerned about? See, I just came up with 3 plans that don't work. Does that make me the triple boss? I mean, what is she? Does she want us to just completely do away with all modern technology? Like, I don't want to live like Laura Ingalls Wilder, Greg. I don't want to do my laundry in a basin. I don't want to eat only lettuce and carrots like some kind of little bunny. To relive the Donner Party in the modern day because I can take a horse and buggy to see my grandparents instead of a plane. I don't want to eat people, Greg, and I don't want people to eat me. AOC, do you want people to eat you? No, then stop proposing.
Gotta love Kat. She's funny as hell. And then, of course, the famous Crumb.
There's a cartoon that I just love. Little mouse, a mouse trap. It's got a little piece of cheese on there. And there's a mouse bounty. And that's called the middle class. And around it, there's fat cats. They don't go on like elephants, but anyway. Around there. And that's the thing. You get this little thing, and we get this big bonanza. You get the crumb, we get the banquet.
Says the gajillionaire.
So
$1,000 is a crumb? Maybe if you're worth $100 million like Pelosi is. Here's what she said about President Obama's so-called middle-class tax cut. Ready? Today's agreement is a victory for the American people. They spoke out clearly, and $40 each per paycheck will make a difference. So $40 makes a difference, but $1,000 doesn't? Nancy needs to brush up on her arithmetic.
Anyways, what do we got? Oh, here we go. This is when all the kids were going to these protests all summer. The summer of love.
Are you cutting class to go to this protest?
Yes.
Which class?
I would have missed any class, but it happened to be lunch.
I'll go turn the fryers back on and throw some wings in for you.
Tell me what wingy.
I was cutting my calculus class. I have a test.
So what happens when the teacher fails you?
I think that if he fails me, he's an app. Geometry and PE.
You don't like gym?
Wouldn't kill you. We play some competitive sports.
Do your teachers know you're cutting?
Yeah, many of them were just like, we understand why you aren't going to be here tomorrow. Good for you.
What exactly are you ladies here to protest?
I would say I'm here to protest the ban on immigrants and refugees.
The travel ban. That's un-American.
What he's doing is just not right, and it's fascism. It's not democracy.
We're protesting against Trump. He wants to ban people from this country, and it's kind of sad when you don't like a person for what they look like.
What don't you like about Trump?
He's racist. He's against African Americans. He said that black people are ignorant.
He did?
Yeah.
When was that?
He said it. I could change what I said.
You were chanting that America was never great earlier. Do you believe that?
It's a chant. It rhymes. 5, 6, 7, 8. America was never great.
But you know, America was pretty great when we defeated the Nazis.
This is not good here.
Which nations are on the temporary travel ban list?
Well, as of right now, I'm not completely sure about the actual countries.
Libya, Iraq, for sure, Afghanistan, Lebanon, many
This isn't turning out the way I wanted it to.
It's all the nations that he wants, just not in America. That's bad phrasing, and I'm on TV.
Boy, what a great show.
Why don't you want people extremely
Puts a lot of Willy Wonka in
these
there.
countries?
Why should they be extremely vetted?
Because those are havens of terrorism.
America's a haven of terrorism.
If you think America's so bad, you should try Syria.
You can't even set foot in the parking lot.
The countries that he's blocked, they're not terrorist countries.
Iran's not a terrorist country?
No.
It's the #1 sponsor of terrorism in the world. Do you believe in borders?
If you're cool and all, you're coming in to help me. I'm cool with that, but I'm not coming here to mess things up.
So don't you want to check to see if someone's cool before you let them in?
Well, of course, you always want to check. That's why we have our airports.
And that's why we want extreme vetting, right?
Of course.
So
But
you do agree with the Trump ban? What does your sign say on the back?
On the back it says punch a Nazi.
Wait, I thought you don't believe in violence.
I do believe in violence, not gun violence.
So just these things.
Yeah.
I've got Jack Johnson and Tom O'Leary waiting for you.
I'm an immigrant. I'm from South Africa. Do you think I need to be extremely vetted?
After some of the comments you made, yes.
I'm just being humorous.
Fucking Waters World cracks me up. That guy. Okay, so what else do we got? No, this is just all some.
The Dakota Access Pipeline finally got clearance to proceed after months of being held up by protesters. The protesters said they were there protecting the pristine natural environment, but when they left an abandoned camp, they actually left behind about 250 trucks worth full of garbage, which now has to be cleaned up before spring comes and it all melts and goes into the lake that the protesters were protecting. So I think that counts as a miss.
Okay, so then I started watching. This is. I mean, these are just some weird things that I seen on the news back then, and I was like, "Oh, I didn't know this was a thing." Check it out.
With his ex-wife, they're stuck in court. He has petitioned the court to actually let them take care of it with a sword fight. Now he says she can sub in her attorney. It doesn't have to be her. Here's what he says in request.
She can sub in her attorneys.
By combat. He says it's never been, Exhibit C, explicitly banned or restricted as a right in these United States. Bob, it's not illegal.
It's a violation of the criminal law. The court's never going to allow the Shannon. In my law practice, we work very closely with family law attorneys. We do criminal defense work. I see the pictures you got up there, but you know what? Nothing
That's
is
not
worse.
These are not the people.
Yeah, these are the people. Nothing is worse than when we work with the family law attorneys in domestic violence cases or cases that wind up becoming criminal because people lose their minds in the context of a matrimonial action. The judge, which is shocking to me, one last point, should have just immediately said, no, thank you very much, don't waste the court's time. But if you believe it or not, the court's going to actually consider
I know,
it's great. And then the woman's attorney actually had to file a response. So
Well,
I got
and here's the thing: is the guy has said, if you're going to decide to let me do this, I need you to give me enough advance warning because I have to find these specific swords and prepare them and be trained and be ready to go. And he says no one has to die. He says you can just declare yourself, I'm out, I've lost. It doesn't have to be to the death. All right, here's the wife's attorney, the ex-wife's attorney says this. It should be noted that just because the U.S. and Iowa constitutions do not specifically prohibit battling another person with a deadly
Katana sword. It does prohibit a court sitting.
Prohibit a court sitting in equity from ordering the same, Alex.
Yeah, I think that not just that, but also the fact that Iowa does ban murder would be problematic in this situation. But what was interesting to me in doing research for this is that, several states haven't banned dueling, and then saw that it's not banned, but you can't serve public office if you have participated in one. So I thought that was interesting.
Well, there are all kinds of things that we learned.
I can't believe they're talking about it this long. That's odd.
Both of these cases, I think the first case has a better chance of going somewhere. The second one probably not so much, but we will follow them because folks at home, you're the jury. Tweet us with the hashtag Nightcore to @FoxNewsNight or @ShanaBream and let us know how you would rule in these cases. Bob and Alex, you have done a great job with what we have signed you tonight.
Thank you.
Funny.
Lost her marbles. I think she's living in banana land. Earlier this week, she called herself the boss for coming up with the Green New Deal. How are you the boss for coming up with a plan that
doesn't work? Anyways, okay, so then I started looking at little movie clips and stuff, and this little clip actually reminded me of, after all this Green New Deal stuff, it reminded me of the bag tax that they actually have in Minneapolis. And this actually goes on in Minneapolis today, is they charge you for bags. It's a bag tax. It's 10 cents per bag. And so I think it's 10 cents. It might be 5 cents. 5 or 10 cents. I don't get bags in Minneapolis. Just out of spite. Anyways, yeah, so this reminded me of that.
Your voice has changed, Commissioner.
I hope you can hear it.
Jokes. I know you have, Commissioner Gordon. Oh, do you now, Batman? And you also know what we want in exchange for the dear Commissioner's life? What is the rest? Oh, just 10 cents, Batman. 1 thin dime for every egg eaten in Gotham City. It's sort of an egg-sized tax, Batman.
Well, that's unfeasible. There are hundreds of thousands of eggs consumed in Gotham City every day. There's no way to keep track.
You can hear me in the background already.
The entire Gotham City police force will be mobilized as egg counters and tax collectors. They will make it their business to count every egg that is consumed within the city limits and to collect my egg tax on each one. Otherwise, we'll mail the commissioner back to you in a box. A pine box.
We have no choice. The egg tax will be collected.
See that it is, Batman. And remember, I'll be making spot checks myself. If every egg is paid for, it's goodbye, Gordon. Clear?
I cracked myself up, apparently.
A 10-cent tax on every egg eaten in Gotham City.
Holy eggshells! In a few days, that would add up to millions. Couldn't we ask the people of Gotham City to stop eating eggs?
Wait a minute, Rob. If the egg consumption in Gotham City were to suddenly decline, Egghead might take revenge by harming Commissioner Gordon.
Batgirl's right. We just have to pay the egg tax until we locate their hideout and rescue Commissioner Gordon. I'm afraid the onerous job of collecting that tax is yours, Chief O'Hara. I'll take care of all that, Batman.
Is it everything that has eggs in it, too? We don't know. Anyways, it was weird. Funny. Sorry. Of course. Then I observed this. Look at that. She's standing right up in the center. Those are car seats. kind of booster seat is that? I don't know. Let's see. What else do I have? What else did I have here? Oh, this is always. I have some good old classics. Obviously, this one. I think I can play like this. I mean, this is from a Bronx Tale.
Fellas,
Very
you're not dressed properly. He's gonna have to leave. Properly? Jimmy, what's wrong with the way we're dressed? What's up? We're gentlemen ain't dressed right. I asked them to leave. Is there a problem there? The problem is your man here says we're not properly dressed. Like our money ain't green. Just want a couple of beers. 2 beers, that's it. That's it. We'll be on our way. You ain't looking for trouble. Suppose like a gentleman. Give me the beers. Go ahead. I appreciate it. No problem.
You got some booze down here, nice cold ones. Get some nice cold brews. Come on. 2 over here, huh?
Everybody loves this scene.
All right, brothers. Play May. The toast to our host.
In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Oh, you again. That wasn't very nice. Now he's got to leave. I'll tell you when to leave, all right?
Go watch the bites, man.
Go watch the fights.
Now you can't leave.
I will never forget the look on their faces. All 8 of them. Their faces dropped. All their courage and strength was drained right from their bodies. They had a reputation for breaking up bars, but they knew that instant they made a fatal mistake. This time they walked into the wrong bar.
Shall never love another.
It's a good show. Gotta watch that movie if you haven't seen it. Very good movie. I don't know. Let's see. What else do I got? Oh yeah, of course.
Fragile. That must be Italian.
I think that says fragile.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And we all know where this goes.
Did a job on this, you know? No, hey, Hey. Oh, there could be anything in there.
Oh, Lordy.
Maybe they forgot.
It's in there. It's got to be in there. Oh, boy. Would you look at that? Would you look at that? What is it? Wait, it's a leg.
But what is it?
Well, it's a leg, you know, like in a statue.
Statue?
Yeah, statue.
Yeah, statue. Ralphie?
My mother was trying to insinuate herself between us and the statue.
Holy smoke, do you know what this is? This is a lamp.
It was indeed a lamp.
That's right. What a great lamp.
No.
Here, hold it. Hold it here.
The old man's eyes boggled,
Oh, wow.
overcome by art.
I know just the place for it. Right in the middle of our front room window.
Too funny, cute. Anyways, so I just wanted to do a little bit of that. There's one other I didn't watch. I pulled it up because I was like intending to watch this. Oh, there was one other thing. There was. I wanted to see what. Okay, so here's this. I see what the senator says today.
Hey everybody, this is Senator Michael Kroon. You may have heard about historic funding for our schools here in Minnesota the last couple of years. And while that's true, what you probably didn't hear about is the fact that most of our local school districts are actually in worse financial condition than they were before they got this new funding. And the reason for that is because the state has imposed a slew of unfunded and underfunded mandates on our local school districts, many of which have nothing to do with academics. In fact, Anoka Hennepin is facing upwards of $26 million in budget cuts because of these unfunded mandates. What we ought to be doing is giving more flexibility to our local school districts to meet the unique challenges and needs that they face. And to the extent that the state does impose mandates on our local school districts, they should be squarely focused on academics and they should be funded. And if we do that, we'll have a better chance at getting our students caught up academically. Again, this is Senator Michael Kroon. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions about this or any other issue. Thanks.
This dolphin.
Hey everybody, this is Senator Michael Kroon. You may have heard about historic funding for our schools here in Minnesota the last couple of years. And while that's true, what you probably didn't hear about is the fact that most of our local school districts are actually in worse financial condition than they were before they got this new funding.
Okay, so that's not the one I wanted. Let's put that back up there. What about this? Oh, yeah, so I came across this. I thought this was a little interesting.
During a series of primary and general election debates so that you, the voter, can make side-by-side comparisons of the candidates and their views. John Chancellor, a distinguished journalist and commentator, is our moderator for today's debate. John?
Thank you. Gentlemen, when the league sponsored its last debate in New Hampshire, there were 8 of you. Now there are only 5. I must say you survivors look pretty chipper to me. And since then, 4 of you have not done as well, candidly, as you would have liked. Now, let me describe your positions. Jesse Jackson, if he doesn't get 20% of the vote in a primary before April 6th, he will lose his eligibility for federal campaign matching funds. Mr. McGovern is down to campaigning in only one state, Massachusetts, and if he doesn't do well there, he may withdraw. Mr. Glenn has not yet scored a victory, and the opinion polls don't put him in a strong position. Mr. Mondale's hopes for a quick and decisive lead in all this hasn't been fulfilled, and I believe I've heard him use the word clobbered to describe one of his defeats. Mr. Hart has done well. He's presented himself as a man with ideas for the future, but his opponents say that's just tinsel, glamour but no substance. Well, on to the substance, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Jackson, you've got a lot of frontline combat experience in civil rights. Now that you're campaigning in the South, where there are a lot of black votes, you've been hitting that civil rights theme very hard, saying, in effect, that you're better than your opponents on that issue. Does this tend, do you think, to narrow your candidacy? There are a lot of white voters in New England who didn't rally to your rainbow coalition. Have you reached the point where your support will come almost exclusively from blacks?
Number one, in New Hampshire, I got 6% of the vote, which is better than 4 of my opponents, 3 of whom have subsequently dropped out. In Vermont, we got 8% of the vote, so we had an inclination of voting support in New Hampshire. Since we've come south, we focus on the question for farmers. Either they'll have 90% parity or they'll have 100% charity. Mr. Hart and Mondale can appreciate the fact that unless we undergird these farmers, they'll be driven out of business, all of them, and they're mostly white. Secondly, that unless Mr. Hart and Mondale are willing to cut the military budget and use those resources to help end that deficit and revitalize America, they represent a new president, but not a new direction. That affects everybody. Thirdly, the Voting Rights Act is the most critical act of the century. For unless Mr. Hart and Mondale have a plan to enforce the Voting Rights Act, doing second primaries and dual registration, gerrymandering, and annexation, they not our party deserve the votes of the locked out. So the questions of parity, social justice, peace, and sharing power with women are critical to my agenda.
Thank you. Mr. McGovern, you've been critical of Gary Hart recently. He was your campaign manager when you ran for president in 1972. Is his talk about the future, about opportunities for a new generation, really, Mr. McGovern, much different than what you were saying in 1972?
John, first of all, I think I probably trained Gary too well.
I've been rethinking that whole business at 72. Let me just say that as one who has great special affection for Gary Hart and will certainly support him if he's the Democratic nominee, that I do think some legitimate questions have to be asked when the issue is posed as Gary has. He says the election is a contest between the...
This type of a debate for the Democrat primary, obviously. It's so much different. I mean, just look at the context, the atmosphere, everything. They try to present themselves a little bit more professionally. Whereas nowadays it's not the same. It's just different now. I mean, if you haven't seen the way people, some of these politicians speak, it's interesting.
Past
to this
and the future. Now, I'm not sure what the past means in those terms. I'm very sensitive about this, as Gary knows, because I'm an old history teacher. I've always revered the past. But does the past include George Washington and Thomas Jefferson? Does it include Franklin Roosevelt and John Kennedy? Does it include the human rights policy of President Carter? If it does, I'm glad to come here today and claim the past and defend it as a good guide to the future.
Thank you. Mr. Glenn, we saw you in Iowa and in New Hampshire describing yourself as a businessman and an experienced senator. But in the South this last week, you seem to be describing yourself as a hero astronaut and a tough Marine. You've been all of these things. Admittedly, it's all in your record, but can you really decide what sorts of person you'll be in different parts of the country?
I don't think I've changed my views in any way, shape, or form. What you're talking about is the experience factor, which I have pointed out. I have been 10 years in Washington, have passed major legislation, the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Act, for instance, so I know how Washington operates. But in addition to that, who's going to provide the jobs for the future in this country? Who knows the best from the White House? Someone who's been in business, as I have, started 4 small businesses of my own, was president of an international corporation. 1/3 of our agricultural production gets sent overseas normally. 1 out of every 6 American jobs depends on that. It's so important for the future. I've been in the research area. We talk about the future. I've been working in the future all my life. I was in the military, helping work on designing some of that equipment for the future. And so I have experience in that area. I have experience in the arms control area. I have experience in the business area. And I think those are very, very valuable additions, in addition to just being solely lifelong political entities. And so I think I add that extra dimension to it that would give a good dimension to the White House on making those decisions that you have to make.
Thank you. Mr. Mondale, as I understand it, your new theme is what you see in Mondale is what you get. No hairspray. You're saying I am what I am. You say you've resisted suggestions to change your image. That approach, it seems to me, may seem a bit short on issues, actual issues, and yet you accuse some of your opponents of running issueless campaigns.
That's the point of the comment, that I think substance is all that matters here. Are we right on the arms control issues? Do we see that that is the central issue of our time? Do we have a strong and sensitive plan to get those deficits down, restore America's competitiveness, to educate this next generation? Do we have the guts and the commitments to restore a sense of fairness in American life, backed up by the experience to get it done? That's what I'm trying to say. We don't elect momentum. We don't elect images. We elect a human being. And we better pick someone who knows what he's doing, who's committed to the strongest and most important elements directed to our future, and one who's seasoned and experienced and knows what he's doing.
Thank you. And finally, Mr. Hart.
Now, I'm not going to point out the fact that he kept saying he. It's going to be a man. At the time, there was just no women in the race, so that could be very well what that's about. But it's interesting that even he says, back then they're like, look, you need to pick somebody who knows what they're doing. And he's right. You need to pick somebody who knows what they're doing. And let me tell you who doesn't know what they're doing. If you think Kamala knows what she's doing, I mean, I can't help you. I'm just saying. I can't help you. I just can't help you.
One thing that I hear people say is, I don't know much about Gary Hart. I like his style. I like his looks. Isn't there some truth to your opponent's charges that your campaign is more impressionistic than theirs? That you are spending more and more time just being Gary Hart than outlining specific things you do if you were elected?
Well, Mr. Chancellor, that's a very good question at this stage of this race. Let me point out two facts. I have been a public servant, United States Senator, for 10 years, and announced presidential candidate for over a year. When George McGovern, my good friend, says he doesn't know what these new ideas are, I'd remind him, last fall, I sent him a copy of a book that I wrote and a stack of position papers about that high, as I think I have the campaigns of all these other people. The other thing is, these primaries are happening awfully fast now, and I oppose the way this calendar was set up. I, on the record, in the fall of 1982, told the Hunt Commission and the Democratic National Committee not to do this. I wish I had 3 weeks to campaign in Florida, and 3 weeks to campaign in Georgia, and 3 weeks to campaign in Alabama, because I'm convinced the ideas that I have to put forward would sell down here exactly the way they have the rest of the country. So I would hope in the future, when we nominate a president, that we give each of the candidates time to become better known in each of these states.
All right. I'd like to go on to some, thank you very much. I'd like to go on to some specific questionings now. Gentlemen, the figures on the American economy show that the country right now is having one of the best recoveries from a recession since the 1950s. The country is in better shape now than it was 4 years ago economically, 4 years ago when the Democrats were in the White House. I base that on the misery index, the public's expectations on inflation and unemployment. 4 years ago, the misery index stood at 20. Today, the misery index is down to 13. So I'm going to ask each of you, and now in random order, we'll skip around.
Misery
Why should somebody vote for the Democrats? Things are getting better. And I would like first to start with Mr. Mondale. The misery index, as I recall it, was first used by the Carter-Mondale ticket in 1976 as an indicator of how people feel. Would you care to address yourself to that?
As a matter of fact, I think it is now clear that these Reagan policies are about to deliver a misery index that we haven't seen for a long, long time. We see the interest rates rising dramatically. We see the stock market going down dramatically. Now we see a resurgence of inflation. They're now predicting maybe 8% by the end of the year. We have a good chance, if this continues, to choke off economic growth. More than that, the effect of these policies has been to give us the worst trade year in American history, about $120 billion commercial trade imbalance, some 3 to 4 million jobs lost as a result of that. These enormous deficits of $200 billion a year, as far as the eye can see, guarantee that long-term, sustainable, healthy economic growth is impossible, and we're loading our kids with $1 trillion bill that they've got to repay with interest. It is the worst deliberate major economic mistake of modern times.
But I'm going to call him Mr. Hart.
2 points, Mr. Chancellor. As Fritz has very accurately stated, this generation, this government, is doing something that we have not done for 200 years in this nation's history, and that is steal from our children's future to satisfy a Reagan election year recovery and the greed of a handful of people in this country. Number two, what that misery indicator doesn't measure is the anguish of our children who are desperately afraid of a nuclear holocaust, of the woman in Alabama who wrote me saying that she fully supported my effort to get our Marines out of Lebanon, and her son was one that didn't come back. The anguish of our citizens who are afraid of toxic waste polluting their water supply, young people who don't know whether they have a future education or a job beyond that, or the 9 million structurally unemployed people that Ronald Reagan has no plan whatsoever to put back to work. This president is not addressing the fundamental problems of this country's economy.
Mr. Glenn, would you address the question that I posed? Why the Democrats if things are doing well?
The misery index of our children, I would like to know what that is going to be. When we're talking $200 billion a year deficits and we're letting that drive interest rates up, we're driving down export abroad, we're cutting out jobs in this country of ours, We're increasing the misery index for our children. Anyone can live on borrowed money for a little while. But there are many things that are also going to have to go into that misery index for the future that this administration has taken a very short view on also. The misery index caused by cutbacks in education, the opportunity for our young people to go on to high school, go on beyond high school, get a decent education. I've put forward a 3-part program of Volunteers for America, where for service to their country, our young people can be assured of getting a college education. We're talking about the difficulty in investing in new plant and equipment here. We're talking about cutbacks in research. The Japanese, Germans, French increasing their research while we are cutting ours back. It's not just an economic matter now, it's economic matters for the future that are going to cause our children to live with an economic misery index that should not be their lot. We can do better than that.
Mr. McGovern?
Mr. Chancellor, Mr. Reagan has done something I didn't expect a conservative president to do. He's bought us a kind of an artificial recovery for some people by spending $200 billion a year more than he takes in. Now, I'm sure some of the viewers listening to the 5 of us think we're making partisan judgments here today about the president, but his own top economic advisor, Martin Feldstein, the chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors, has said that this $200 billion deficit is a time bomb that's going to go off after the election. It'll drive interest rates right through the ceiling, and that's the end of the recovery. He's also said what's causing this enormous...
Okay, we gotta look. I can't not look. It is what it is. The misery index, you guys. Let's take a look. Hold on here. Okay, so the misery index. Let's see what. So I'm not into this kind of stuff. I don't know this stuff. It is what it is. Don't judge me. Okay, so 1 year. Basically, the U.S. Misery Index is released by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. This metric is calculated by adding the U.S. inflation rate and the U.S. unemployment rate. The Misery Index can be used as a gauge at how the economy is doing because of the components. This indicator tends to be at its highest when inflation or unemployment is increased. For example, one of the most notable periods in regard to high inflation was the 1980s. The U.S. Misery Index was as high as 21.98 in 1980. Hoofda. Okay, so all right. Does this have 3 years? Interesting. Okay, so obviously here is where the spike was. This is where that spike was, okay? When COVID happened. This is, let's see. Let's do the 10-year if we can. Oh, we can't. I don't know that they had it. Okay. Well, they did. It won't let me. Okay, so July 2020 is pretty much when it spiked, it looks like. Well, January, or let's see. Yeah, I wish I could get something before that, but that's where it's stopping until I can get view full chart. Okay, what if I do this? Can I do that? Unlock my access. What? Overview. Okay. Oh, it doesn't highlight. Okay, so isn't that interesting? Here it is. Trump, 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 Trump. And then, of course, that's when the bad COVID stuff happened right there. It looks like March 20, we were down to 5.939, and it spiked to 15.03. That sucked. And we all know what happened there. It was the COVID thing. So then this is where it got back down to and it is once got all the way down to here. Was that still not pre-COVID? Because pre-COVID it was still in the fives. So after COVID, it's still elevated, and obviously a lot of those jobs had to have come back. But you can clearly see people were getting all that money. They weren't going back to work. What are you kidding me? I wish I could see more of it, but that's all I got. I don't know much about this kind of stuff, but I find that a little interesting. Let's continue.
Enormous deficit. It's a wildly
Sorry to bore you.
inflationary and extravagant military spending binge that goes way beyond any defense requirement we have. And secondly, it's an inefficient and unjust tax law that's permitting billions of dollars to go through the loopholes for the highest income corporations in the country.
Mr. Jackson?
My concern is that we feel the tragic pain of the misery index rising under Reagan.
I mean, you know what's so funny is you see Jesse Jackson here. This is how I remember him, not when he turns into this total weirdo as he got older.
Direction, just a little slower. If Mr. Hart and Mondale would not share that ticket with a woman, while women are 50% of our convention, they then add to the misery of women who need to become empowered.
Wait a minute. Would you go over that again? I got kind of lost.
Well, what I'm saying is that our convention is now 50% female. Women are seeking to become empowered. 70% of all poor children live in a house headed by a woman. Unless we empower women, then they will be more miserable. Secondly, if they maintain a commitment to raise the military budget, they can do nothing about Reagan's deficit. They're going the same direction, just a little slower. When I consider us spending $150 billion a year to defend Japan and Europe, when they're better able to help defend themselves now, when we're cutting aid to American education and extending aid to El Salvador, we are extending that misery. The misery index is on the rise. 34 million people now are in poverty, be 41 million by the end of this year. So from Wall Street down, things may be looking better, but the boat stuck at the bottom, for them, things are much worse.
All right, now we get into a few minutes of freewheeling in which you are at liberty to attack one another. But let me just try one thing. Aren't most of you actually for an increase in defense spending?
Well, I'm not.
I'm not. I'm for a 25% cut.
You mean
in the president's budget, and I think it can be done without touching anything that's important to our national defense. I'm a bomber pilot.
I'm still on the misery index thing, so I just looked on this Wikipedia. Of course, you know, everything they say, take with a grain of salt. Here we go. All right, the average, the time period. Okay. Start, finish, change. So basically his overall average is basically almost the least. Looks like Johnson, Lyndon B. Johnson had a lower average. I find that interesting. Isn't that interesting? Look at that. The entire time. So far, Joe's at 10. But we can't, blame him for everything. We're going to keep him right around the 8-point part just because, he's with his buddies and stuff. But, I find it very interesting. The misery index is an economic indicator created by economist Arthur Okun. The index helps. When did this? Somewhere after 1969? No, 68 and 69. Okay, so right around them. The index helps determine how the average citizen is doing economically and is calculated by adding the seasonally adjusted unemployment rate and the annual inflation rate. It is assumed that both a higher rate of unemployment and a worsening inflation create economic and social costs for a country. So, it actually has this for other countries. Misery index. Holy smokes. Look at that, you guys. Can you see that? Is that big enough? I don't know if I can make it bigger. Maybe. Well, I don't know. Anyways, let's see, what do we got here? Holy smokes. Japan's at the bottom of the list. United States, major contributing factor, unemployment. Look at this. Venezuela, 79.4. Iran, 61.6. Oh my God. Look at that. That's crazy. Mexico, Ecuador, so not too bad. But yeah, look at these. Ooh, excuse me, I'm all yawning. I think it's almost time for Gina to go to bed, huh? Yeah, thanks for hanging out with me. I was just doing some stuff after work, you know. This is the other thing that I've been working on is the Book of Enoch. I'm actually into the third book, if you can see that. That's another thing that I've been working on. I think I might Twitch stream this stuff because it's kind of like one of those things. I don't think YouTubers watch this, but
the third book of Enoch.
Look at it. It's coming
the book
out
of Noah.
Wonderful.
Chapter 1, the birth of Noah. And after some days,
So
my
I'm
son
going to do
Methuselah
this
took a
one
wife
over
for
the
his son
next,
Lamech.
couple weeks here. There's 5 books, you guys. I thought there was just 3 or 4. There's 5. So I'm almost done with 2. This is 3. I'm working on book 3 on my computer, and I'm working on book 2 on my phone so that I have something to work on, and I'll have them both done hopefully within the week or so. I wanted to stream yesterday, but I ran out of time. And so Wednesday, if I get a chance, we're gonna go into more of the series that I have with Rick Renner about Noah and the Ark, about Noah's Ark, basically about the discovering Noah's Ark, because he found it. It's there. Well, he didn't find it. Drew Bernard found it, but it's taken this long for that voice crying out in the wilderness to say, "Oh, here it is." I mean, the guy's already dead, I believe. Anyways, not Rick, but Drew Bernard. I mean, bummer. I mean, wouldn't you have liked to have seen people listen? I mean, it's just sad that his discovery is being acknowledged after the fact. You know what I mean? It was acknowledged, but not to the degree that it should have been, I think. Anyways.
And his body was
my own thought process on that. We'll take a look at that. Hopefully on Wednesday night, we can do a little bit of that and do like a quick series on that, depending on how I feel. If I'm too tired, I still have some stuff that I need to do, and I feel like I have no time, you know. So I took a nap after work. I was like, I need a nap. That's why I'm up. But now I'm tired. Okay. That's all you get. You guys, I'm terrible. Let me get myself out of this mess here. Remove. There I am. Ooh, oh my little thing. That's okay. Whatever. Okay. I will see you guys hopefully on Wednesday night. If not, for sure, Sunday we'll continue that. But I'm hoping to start the continuation of the Rick Renner Discovering Noah's Ark series on both YouTube and Rumble. I don't know, Twitch too, but I don't know. I don't maintain that Twitch channel that much because I never know what I'm doing in it. And so I wish somebody would help me with that one. That would be fun. If I knew how to work it, I would do more Twitch because they're always nice on Twitch. People are nice on Twitch. They're not mean. YouTube, people are mean. Rumble, it don't matter. They're funny on Rumble. But Twitch, they're just always nice. They're always nice folk. Anyway. All right, I'm going to bed. I'll see you guys later. Let's see, what can we play on our out? You know what? There's this song. I want to play it. It's super cute. But in the meantime, I'll find that. And then I'll play my outro. And then I'll do, yeah, here.
This is dedicated to the broken, the hurt and lonely and forgotten ones. This goes out to the weary. Let's keep dancing while the day is young. This right here is for the sleepless, trying to make it in the fire ones. This is for the abandoned. Let's keep dancing while the day is young. 'Cause it'll be alright, 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 alright. It's gonna be alright, 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 alright. This won't last forever. Baby, it's gonna get better. It'll be alright, 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 alright. I'm singing out to the hidden, waiting for the fruit that their hands have sown. Did you know there's a promise? You'll get more than what you bargained for. And this is for the lonely, the ones that are loved and the ones that lost. I know your heart may be hurting. Let's keep dancing till the day is done. Because it'll be alright, 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 alright. It's gonna be alright, 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 alright. This won't last forever. Baby, it's gonna get better. It'll be alright, 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 alright. There's a new If you're standing on the edge, or if you're home alone with a loaded gun, there's strength at your lowest. Life's worth living, you have just begun.